Well, Project 863 is a scary world.
It is.
You got to be safe inside it.
That's true.
And speaking of that, you guys were outside of it for like 3 months, right? So there was 3 months between season 1 and the start of season 2. You people on YouTube are probably hearing this because we're not going to talk specifically about what season 2 and is happening in this section. But what happened in those 3 months for you guys? Like, what were you doing behind the scenes? Because we clearly weren't producing and uploading the content, but we were producing a lot of other things behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Let's start with you,
what were you doing, Woods?
Those 3 months off.
So we took that time to set up like a really nice workshop, one that would essentially have everything we needed, all the tools, all the equipment, all the machinery, in order to make a plethora and a variety of props.
Cornucopia.
A cornucopia.
One might say.
A smorgasbord.
Smorgasbord.
That time was spent, grabbing all the machines and testing them and kind of getting a gauge of what's going to be like the most useful thing for us in terms of like creating a world through these objects, right? And so we were doing a lot of that, and then a lot of like just a lot of brainstorming, a lot of like prep essentially. But
well, you learned some new skills, I feel like, too.
Yeah, I got to learn.
Give me a little taste of that, because I saw you 3D print Bernie Sanders, which I thought was pretty sweet.
I sure did.
I thought that was fun.
So I had to test the in order to make like any prop we really wanted, we needed a 3D printer or like a resin printer. So I had to test those, and we had a couple in shop from like years ago that like I vetted through those and essentially like figured out which one prints the best on the smallest scale, which one prints the best on the largest scale. And so with that, you get to like learn all the CAD designing, and that's like essentially going in and putting up, you're just making shapes, and then you make those shapes a little bit more specific, and and then you send it off. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
That's how childbirth is made.
And then you send it to the printer, and it prints.
It's made. Don't even think about it, all right?
Sorry, I won't. And then you send it off to the printer, and it prints literally what you just designed, and that's been really, really fun, because that opens up a lot of doors for what we can do in the future.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
So I also saw you're like pouring cement, like you're doing a lot of different random things that I find quite fascinating. Like, is that what fulfills you? Is just doing like a bunch of these like strange
Pouring cement.
Yeah, well, it goes from pouring cement to like, if you guys like saw the Behind 863 like vlog we put out, like Woods is getting a pickaxe out and just digging holes. Like, you're kind of doing like what nobody else really wants to do, but then you're doing cool technical things as well, which I find fascinating. Like, you have the highest variety, I think, in terms of like what you do on a daily basis, physically at least,
Yeah, it involves a bunch of creation and like sometimes it involves like, on your feet thinking if you don't have anything prepped, but other times, which could be fun and challenging, but when you have like maybe like an hour before shoot and like something's not working, you gotta twist and adapt, pivot and adapt. But the more fulfilling part, I'd say, is probably how do I put this object that's like an everyday object into our story, so it's like not familiar, but it like functions the same way. And so like there's a lot of imagination involved, a lot of like creativity and like processes, and then also the fulfilling part about that is learning a bunch of stuff and getting things under my belt and like saving them and utilizing them for later props. Yeah,
that's true. And on the topic of even just learning something, I think that's what Matt's been doing for the last 3 months more than anything. He's pretty much changed a lot. Like, give me like as best. Yeah, I mean, we've changed company names in the last 3 months. We've done a lot in the last 3 months. Yeah. So like, what have you been? I mean, you personally have gone through a lot as well, which I think we can dive into
later or now.
Let's do it later, because we'll have it as its own separate topic. But I really do want to hear like specifically about all of it.
Yeah.
But in terms of just professional.
So we took a break, and that was largely, for me personally, for health reasons, because basically I had gone to the dentist and I had taken this big health leave when we were all taking a break in between production, because now how we're going to situate things is every quarter we have a season, right? And after that quarter's over, we'll have a week gap where we all take a break, like the entire company, right? So we get 4 weeks off a year, hopefully. Obviously, we didn't last quarter because we didn't have production. So it was just, we were all taking breaks left and right, which was nice.
Yeah.
But So that week with the health didn't allow me to like nearly do anything to catch up for season 2. And then we were rushing things for season 2, and it was just like, you know what, this isn't working. And then more health complications. And I was like, okay, I think this is a sign. And so, like I said, like you said, we'll get into that later. But the big piece there was, how can we possibly utilize this break and take some time to make something different of what we're doing, right? Because in the past, High Five Studios had always been like this kind of like internal nightmare. Like there's great things, and like the videos were super fun to film, right? But outside of the videos, it was a little chaotic, right? And too many things were happening, and I was wearing too many hats, and I never got into doing like the deep strategy work that a CEO should do. And so took a break to allow me to do a little bit more strategy work, to allow us to pivot in such a way that hopefully will, now that in season 2 is starting, we're going to be able to take that into, use that leverage, hopefully. Other big things are stabilizing like the internal side of the business, right? Of like figuring out how we're going to scale, figuring out how we're going to talk to each other, communicate, like assign responsibilities, delegate, things of that nature, hiring more people, figuring out how to scale, basically, right? And so those were the biggest pieces. And so one of those things was, okay, High Five Studios isn't like a really solid name for where we want to go, right? High Five Studios Incorporated didn't really work for this big picture vision of creating immersive worlds and stories and these compelling digital and physical spaces that we hope to make. It was like High Five Studios, right? Am I wrong here?
Well, yeah,
You know what I mean?
and it also like never really had a meaning, right? Like other
Yeah.
than you like high-fiving the camera at the end of videos.
Yeah.
But like I always remember hearing you say that you kind of just scrambled to pick a company
Yeah.
name like as soon as you started hiring other people, and
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
like, oh, I just need a company name. So
That was it.
So it didn't really like mean anything.
Yeah, it was just the high five thing, which I'd stolen from PewDiePie's Brofist. You know what I mean?
It's a great steal, by the way.
Yeah.
Most iconic thing is PewDiePie's Brofist on YouTube, right?
But Spellbound was a fun. It was just a fun little name, right? It was really, really difficult to find a name. Spellbound wasn't even my pick either. I feel like a lot of people thought it was my pick. It was actually Amanda's
Well, you
pick.
were a heavy advocate of it. I think that's why.
I was a heavy
Not
advocate.
even in a bad way. It's just
Yeah.
that you're
Yeah.
such an advocate of it. And I mean, Amanda loved her to death, but she's not at the studio often, so
Yeah.
she's not advocating
Yeah.
it. So you're kind of advocating it for her, and it kind of like comes off
Yeah.
like you came up with it, but you didn't for sure.
But my original name for what I wanted to call the studio was Storied. And then I was
I
pitching it
remember that.
around. And then Amanda was like, I don't think so. And she's like, what about Spellbound? And I was like,
She just
so
threw it
much
up like
better.
that. She just like tossed it up.
And
What
I've
about
been
this?
thinking about it
About
for
it,
months. She's like, what about Spellbound? And I was like, so much better. That's so
Yeah.
much better. And I was like, okay, Spellbound's the new best one that I've thought of. And this is after I've thought about it for months and months and months, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, when I think deeply about something, like, I go in deep, and I'm, like, looking at all the word combinations. I found all these different websites that'll literally combine words, and it looks like different languages and stuff. And so then I took it to the team, and then everyone started coming up with names. We kind of like did a little vote on it, and Spellbound was still like the top winner.
My
Sam,
turn?
Yeah, what did you do?
Oh,
over
I
the
did
last
so
3 months?
much on that 3-month break. It was a lot. It was a lot of like projects to manage. I worked with Matt to help launch Spellbound Plus. Like I said, like I kind of became the meeting person to connect with Mighty Networks a lot, which was fun. A really big learning experience. Just meeting with people like outside of the company and like being in that position of like being the information like receiver and giver, like kind of the middleman there.
Yeah.
I've never really been in a position like that before. So that was a big learning opportunity. But at the beginning of the 3-month break, my biggest projects were the sets, which was really exciting and really cool to see come together. Bailey and I worked with a designer to come in and do the headquarters set up in Blue Base and the vault. And it was another really big learning opportunity because it was our first time hiring a set designer, and we went through, some highs and lows in that process of trying to find the right person. But we eventually did. And seeing that set come together, I think we knew was going to be such like a pivotal part of season 2, having a dedicated discussion space for Matt, Woods, and I, and matching the room to like the aesthetic of the channel. I think we all knew was going to be like really important. So that was one of the biggest projects of those 3 months. And then same thing with the vault, in story, it's been broken into so many times. We were like, okay, we need to give it a visual makeover to one kind of match the door that we installed in season 1, just like, so it's not just like a big white room with a brown desk and an office chair,
exactly,
like inside of the vault door. Like that just didn't work
it's
aesthetically.
Like an interrogation room, like you have like this giant door for a person to sit in there, and you just like.
And that's the thing, is like where we want to stray from now with Spellbound is like tired of the white walls and like the unfinished company look.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, that's true. Like we should fill all of our picture frames. You know what I mean?
Or just not go in that base.
Or just not. Well, it's in blue base too.
Out. Is it?
Yeah,
what picture frames?
They're still up in the staircase. There's still a bunch of pictures that aren't filled in.
Those are filled.
No,
they're
dude. There are a couple that are still empty.
Really?
I promise you. I see them every day when I walk up to my office.
Oh, but no one will fill them. That's the funny thing.
Well, I mean,
everyone
I will
looks at
take
me
it
like, when are we going to fill them? You think I'm going to fill them?
I'm not the guy who's going to
fill them. I will take it into my own hands. And by that, I mean, I will delegate it to Bailey, probably. But
Bailey's going to fill these.
Bailey's going to fill these.
Bailey, the multi-purpose tool of the studio.
Truly. No, I mean, she
does everything.
She was such a vital help with like getting these sets done. But yeah, so like the sets, the Spellbound Plus launch, like just a lot of project management was kind of my 3-month break.
Yeah.
Yeah.